We focus on cases where the economic, like the raw dollars and cents, would not necessarily make sense to bring the case. That's why attorneys like me exist. That's why public interest law firms exist, because there are a lot of cases where the principle is very important, but a lot of times the people that are affected by it, the value of bringing the suit, it would cost them more to bring the suit than they would get out of it. A lot of the cases that I bring, all you get is injunctive relief, which is an order from a judge that says, stop doing this, government, naughty. So the reason we exist is so you can pursue those cases where the principle is very important.
So you know what Colorado needs? In fact, you know what the world needs is one more damn lawyer. Dan Burrows from the Public Trust Institute. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, John.
All right. Actually, your law firm, the Public Trust Institute, is a how would you describe it?
I mean, I like to say I make the government play by the rules. We are a right-of-center public interest law firm. We take our cases pro bono, which means at no charge to the client. I don't like to say I take them for free. I'm a capitalist. I know everything costs something, right? But thanks to the generosity of our donors, we're able to do our cases without any fee charged to our client, and we pursue cases that we believe advance open and accountable government and liberty and constitutional governance in Colorado.
This has been such a key issue, and public interest law firms, particularly on the federal level, have done amazing work. Pacific Legal, you've got IJ, Institute for Justice. Here in Colorado, we also have some great partners, including the Mountain States Legal Foundation and others that, including the Independence Institute, has brought up cases every now and then. But to specialize in free market cases that try to keep government in bounds, for them to follow the law. I think so much of Tabor, for instance, where the Supreme Court just makes up rules and changes it willy-nilly. Our Constitution, which says we're going to have a 120 calendar day session, our Supreme Court says, well, that doesn't mean they're stuck together. Try that with your bank mortgage sometimes.
Yeah.
Say, the contract said calendar days. It didn't say consecutive days. So, I'll pay you next month maybe. And it's hard to keep these parts of government honest. And the problem is, rich guys might be able to afford a lawyer. Certainly special interests can afford good lawyers. The regular guy who's getting hosed can't. And not just because they can't afford the down payment, the retainer of $5,000 or $10,000, but when you start a lawsuit, you have no idea where it's going to go, how long it's going to go, what the depositions might be, what discovery might be, how long it's going to take. You are jumping into a void, and so you need somebody like you to help out.
Yeah, I think that's right. We focus on cases where the economic, like the raw dollars and cents, would not necessarily make sense to bring the case. That's why attorneys like me exist. That's why public interest law firms exist, because there are a lot of cases where the principle is very important, but a lot of times the people that are affected by it, whether it be, in some of my cases, a losing political candidate who doesn't have a job after the election is over, or just a landowner who has some property in their family trust or something like that, the value of bringing the suit, it would cost them more to bring the suit than they would get out of it. A lot of the cases that I bring, all you get is injunctive relief, which is an order from a judge that says, stop doing this, government, naughty. So the reason we exist is so you can pursue those cases where the principle is very important.
So it's kind of like, this has happened to so many people, myself included, where you get pulled over for a speeding ticket and it wasn't right, or even a parking ticket, and you could go fight it, but it's cheaper to pay the $75 fine than it is to spend the 3 hours away from your job or half a day and moving down to the courthouse to do it. And you go, this is wrong, but let's just expedite it. Here it is. It's expediency at its worst, and principle be damned.
Right. I think that's absolutely right. Look, I've paid parking tickets that I thought were garbage before, and I've also challenged ones that I probably should have paid, but nonetheless, it reminds me, there is an advantage to it, right? My brother had a dispute with his neighbor, and he asked me, should I sue him? And I was like, well, yeah, sure. And he goes, no, look, you're a lawyer. It's not the same for you to say, yeah, you should go sue somebody. Like, I'm talking about the economics. And, in the end, I said, no, absolutely not. But because PTI is there and because lawyers are willing to take these for free, and it's not just me, luckily there are a lot of attorneys in Denver who have been desperate for conservative or libertarian-focused cases that they could donate their time to. And I have a network of folks here in Denver that have been looking for that because they work at these big firms. And the ACLU or other left-leaning organizations are very organized. They send out like a weekly email, hey, we need attorneys who are willing to, sue the police department over X, Y, and Z, and here are the arguments that we need, and the Pro-bono committee just, checks off on it. And there's nothing that comes down the pike for conservatives, but there's attorneys out there, and so it's helpful to have somebody, whether it's me bringing the suit or whether it's just somebody who can connect people to the right players, who can just sort of be the traffic cop over those kinds of things, because there are attorneys out there who care about the Constitution the way that I do.
This is really an important role because for a long time there are good conservative libertarian leading attorneys out there, but they don't always get the cases.
Yeah.
They're willing to do some pro bono work, but somebody has to play air traffic control, and that's part of your job. All right, give me an example of a property owner who, for instance, it doesn't make sense to do this financially, but I'm being wronged here. The government is taking my property.
A good example is a case I just filed about 2 weeks ago now. I have some clients, John and Valerie Wells, and they own mineral rights in the city of Boulder. And the city of Boulder has
you can just stop there. These poor bastards. You just stop there.
Who would willingly choose to live in Boulder, John, right?
I agree.
No, they own this property, and the city of Boulder has for years imposed what they refer to as a temporary moratorium on mineral rights development within the city limits, and even outside the city limits on land that the city owns, which occurs pretty
open
frequently.
space.
Yeah, open space is
Well,
an
and
example.
you know that 2 times the size of the city is in open space.
Right, yeah,
So
that's absolutely. I
a
saw
lot
a
of
map
land.
the other day. I was blown away. They own stuff in Jefferson County, all over the place. But anyway, they own these mineral rights. They have leased them out before. But if you know how mineral rights leases work, there's sort of 3 streams of revenue. One is a bonus, which is sort of the upfront payment, and then one is a rent, essentially, on a yearly or a monthly basis. But most of the money from this comes from the royalty. But you only get the royalty if they actually extract minerals. And
Let me put it in English for me. See if I'm following you.
Yeah.
So I own some land, and an oil company wants to poke a hole in it and take out the natural gas. I go, great. They might give me the money up front. They might say, hey, we'll rent a little space. But really, if we're pulling natural gas out, then you get a royalty check.
Absolutely.
So these people, do they own land?
So they own the mineral rights underneath the land. The city of Boulder owns the surface land. And so they would like to lease this out, but the only guaranteed income from this is the rent. And so, they did an appraisal, and even during the entire 7+ years that this moratorium has been in effect, the appraisal is only $19,000. That's only guaranteed income they would have had. Now, if they'd actually gone and drilled, they would have gotten a percentage of the money that they got from selling it. But sometimes you rent it, and the oil company never shows up and drills. They decide they're going to drill on a different piece of land. So, when you're talking about a piece that even over a 7-year period, you're talking about $19,000, you couldn't hire an attorney who was willing to do this suit past filing the complaint itself for $19,000. I mean, just the appraisal probably cost several $1,000s.
So you said something that really stuck out. 7 years.
Yes.
Now, given that most marriages don't last 7 years, and that is until death do you part, I also heard you say this is a temporary moratorium.
Yeah.
So how the hell is 7 years temporary?
Well, so it's temporary in name only. The city has read the cases, like I have and like all good lawyers have, and realizes that you can do a temporary halt on development without it technically being a taking of private property under the Constitution. And so rather than just outright banning it, they have all these little 1-year temporary delays that they just stack onto each other and continually, renew as they come to the end. And their supposed reasoning behind it is, we just need to figure out, what the local impacts are and update our city rules for oil and gas development, which haven't been updated since the 80s or 90s or whatever.
Is it that if they actually ban drilling on this land, that then that constitutes a real taking for which these people have to be compensated?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is let's put it this way. There's a city attorney who's paid full time to figure out ways to keep the city of Boulder from paying money that they don't want to pay. And if I were the city attorney, and I'm a clever lawyer, this is a pretty clever way to avoid paying people for what they've done, which is essentially take their property away from them. And our suit says, look, the city can do what they want. You have a power of eminent domain. If you really think that it's better for the people of Boulder that there not be any of this, there's a way to do this. And that's to condemn the property and pay the people for it. But what you can't do is treat the property like you own it, but not actually buy the property, any more than if the city wants to build a road through your front yard. They can just do it and say, this road is temporary and we'll get rid of it when we feel like it, but otherwise we're not paying you.
That's a really great point, and I think people will focus in on the word mineral rights, that they might want to drill on it and go, well, that's wrong. Well, it doesn't have to be that. It could be a road. It could be an easement. It could be we're going to store our trucks there temporarily. So we're just going to take control of your property, but we're going to re-up it every year. And it sounds very similar to what the legislature does with certificates of participation. That instead of raising a bond, which we have to ask people for, we'll just do 1-year bonds and just keep continuing them. That way we get around doing it the right way. There's nothing wrong with condemning the land and saying it's on our best public use, not to use this, we're taking it.
Yeah.
What a cowardly way to do government.
I think that's right. And we don't see this as part of sort of the oil and gas wars. I mean, certainly the Wellses, John Wells in particular, is a longtime oil man, and he certainly thinks that oil and gas development has been good for Colorado during the time that he's been here. But our position in this suit is not that the city is right or wrong to want to ban this. It's simply that, look, if this is what the citizens of Boulder want, they are free to do it. They just need to carry the economic consequences of it.
Getting back to PTI, that's why the Public Trust Institute, your organization, is so valuable, and sister organizations to it, because these are arguments that need to be had. Without it, nobody would pick it up. There's no reason to pick it up.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the other thing that I worry about is too many people only care about the end result. They don't care about process. And as a lawyer, you see that process is very important. And our founding fathers knew that too. That's why we have a constitution. We have rules that we've all agreed on. And we've all agreed on the way that you change those rules. But until those rules are changed, those are the rules everybody has to follow. And we do that for lots of reasons, predictability and justice among them. But our goal from PTI is to tell the government that the ends don't always justify the means. And what's important is that you understand that when you ignore process, your opponents will eventually be in office. And they'll ignore the same processes that you ignored, and they'll use them to beat you over the head the same way they beat you over the head. And the only way that we have, a peaceful and orderly society, and the way that we have comity among, warring political factions, is for everybody to agree on what the ground rules are. And so PTI, we are a nonpartisan organization. Certainly, we're ideologically conservative, but we are not the Republican Party itself or the Libertarian Party or whatever party agrees with us ideologically. We are pro-rules, whatever the rules are.
Pro-fairness. We all play by the same rules. Let's leave it at this, which is, I'll always say something to the effect of, would you support the government doing what they're doing if the opposition party was in control.
Right.
I think about the abuses of emergency orders by Polis. They were brought in by Republicans 20 years ago after 9/11, giving the governor all these authorities. Now that we're seeing it in practice, some people have said, let's pull it back and have some sort of check and balance so that if the legislature, you have to go back to the legislature after 30, 60, 90 days. And the Democrats didn't let it go out of committee. And we're like, wait a second. If it wasn't Governor Polis, but Governor Trump, how would you be feeling about that authority? In the same way in this case in Boulder, if it wasn't good anti-oil and gas Boulder, but anti-clean water Boulder or pro-oil and gas Boulder, would you like them to do the same abuses of getting around?
It would be no different if Weld County declared all mineral owners must immediately drill their mineral rights. Right? And you don't get compensation for us taking it from you. It's the same principle. And what's important to us is the principle. I mean, that's why we have a Bill of Rights.
I'm old enough to remember when the left used to say, the ends don't justify the means. I don't know what happened to those good leftists. People want more information about PTI. Where do they go?
Publictrustinstitute.org is our website. There's a contact form there if you have a case. I have a roving commission for righteous conservative causes. So
righteous
if anybody
conservative
sends
causes.
My way, I'm happy to take a look.
Dan, good luck with it all.
Thanks, John.
If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.